Lewis Hamilton is done with Mercedes? Or is it the other way around? The seven-time Formula One world champion wasn't afraid to show signs of frustration after a rough weekend at the Brazilian Grand Prix, where he managed only a 10th place finish. He took to the media to trash the car and even hinted at an early exit. Here's everything he had to say. Hamilton's disastrous run began with a surprising exit in Q1, followed by a difficult sprint race. A different story compared to his teammate George Russell, who snagged second in qualifying and finished fourth. Hamilton didn't mince words in his assessment, branding the Mercedes W15 as undrivable. Hamilton's history with Mercedes is legendary, with his partnership yielding 6 world titles and numerous wins. But the ongoing troubles are a continuation of Mercedes' struggles under the ground effect regulations introduced in 2021. While Hamilton celebrated wins at the British and Belgian Grand Prix earlier this season, Mercedes' performance has taken a noticeable dip in the latter half of the year. Yesterday was terrible. Today was terrible. Yesterday was bad. Qualifying was bad. The sprint race was bad. The car's just been bad all weekend, Hamilton said following Sunday's race. Brand new audio released right after the Brazilian Grand Prix may have hinted at Mercedes' plans for the rest of the season. And based on what was said, Lewis might possibly be out of the picture. That was a disaster of a weekend, guys. That is the worst the car has ever been, he said. But thank you for continuing to try. Great job from the guys at the pit stop. If this is the last time that I get to perform, it's a shame it wasn't great, but grateful for you. Mercedes' W15 has shaped up to be a story of unfulfilled promise. Unveiled with high hopes after tough 2022 and 2023 seasons, the W15 initially hinted at a comeback with key upgrades. Yet, the performance has fallen short of expectations, leaving the team and fans yearning for more. According to Hamilton, it's just like a plank of wood. It's like a plank of wood. It's like no suspension. It's bouncing on the tyres everywhere, and you can't get on the power anywhere. It's just the worst ride. I think the worst ride that we've definitely ever had, particularly through corners. It's just so stiff. But hopefully we won't have any more bumpy tracks. I think the last 3 aren't so bumpy. But yeah, I could happily go and take a holiday. It's devastating to have these bad races in the second half of the season. But all I can say is we're trying. It's definitely not acceptable. It's definitely not good enough. And we have to take accountability. I have to take accountability. But I am doing the best with what I've got. The car has been the worst this weekend. I don't know what it is. We're going to have to find out what it is. Hamilton even invited the media to investigate the car's ongoing problems, offering a cash reward as he voiced out his disappointment after the latest race. You tell me. That's the million-dollar question. If you can find it, the problem, I'll give you $1 million. He's now fallen behind teammate George Russell in the Drivers' Championship, despite holding a 25-point lead earlier in the season, helped in part by Russell's disqualification in Belgium, where Hamilton inherited his points. Hamilton, now facing a 16-5 deficit to Russell in qualifying, will soon find himself competing against Charles Leclerc, one of the grid's sharpest qualifiers, when he joins Ferrari next year. As he tries to close out his remarkable 12-season career with Mercedes, recent struggles have hindered his farewell. A DNF at the US Grand Prix and a tough weekend in Sao Paulo have left him with just 26 points from the last 5 races. Both Hamilton and Russell have battled performance inconsistencies with the W15 all season. While the car brought them 3 wins in 4 races over the summer, it's typically looked like the 4th fastest contender on the grid. But it was Sir Lewis who struggled mightily at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, and he labelled it as crap, and admitted that the end of his Mercedes career can't come soon enough. Speaking to the media, Hamilton made it clear that his patience is wearing thin as he looks forward to a fresh start. The race was crap, but driving Ayrton Senna's car was the best thing ever, so I am happy and grateful for that experience. Let's not talk about the car, because the car is no good. The end can't come soon enough. Mercedes' season has been marred by the W15's unpredictable traits, undermining any consistent success at the front of the grid. This inconsistency has left the team struggling to make real strides forward. I just put my focus on something else, he explained. I'm not fighting for the championship. It doesn't really matter where we finish in the championship. I'm looking forward to Christmas. I don't care if I finish ahead of George Russell or behind George. It doesn't make that big of a difference to me. Once a powerhouse in Formula One, Mercedes is now facing a turbulent season. Despite an upswing after the Canadian Grand Prix, the team's momentum has slowed, with recent races bringing fresh setbacks. Currently, Hamilton sits 6th in the drivers' standings, and Mercedes holds 4th in the Constructors' Championship. putting the title well beyond their reach. George Russell has shown steadier form in recent races, but the team still faces an uphill battle. As Hamilton readies himself for his switch to Ferrari next year, his legacy with Mercedes remains firmly intact, marking the end of an era filled with historic achievements. I just want to keep the car out the wall and try to score points if I can for the team. If I can finish well and they give me a car that doesn't bounce off the track in the next few races, then hopefully we get a better result. George Russell is convinced he could have clinched victory at the Brazilian Grand Prix if Mercedes had heeded his advice during the race. The British driver wanted to remain out on track, but his race engineer called him into the pits, overruling Russell's preference to stay out. It did cost the win. We're in this together as a team. Already taking P4 ahead of the weekend, we'll get over it. Sometimes it's difficult to predict what's about to happen. Everybody's doing their best and making the best calls with the information available. Normally, when it's drying, it's the teams to say, let's go to slicks. When it's getting wetter, it's normally the driver's call to say, slicks to inters or inters to wets. I was very confident it was going to go safety car or red flag because it was like driving a boat. Sometimes you have to trust your gut. Last time I trusted my gut, it went down pretty well. Today, who knows if we could have won the race. But if we didn't pit, we would have been leading at the restart and the first 30 laps controlling the pace. With Lando behind us, we had very good straight-line speed as well. P2 would have been a minimum. At the restart, race control's decision to opt for a rolling start left George Russell visibly upset. He wasn't alone in his surprise. Several drivers were caught off guard by the unexpected call. I was shocked, to be honest. I couldn't keep my foot on the gas down the straight. The car was aquaplaning, exceptionally dangerous for those couple of laps, but they like action, I guess. As the rain intensified, Russell argued that he had a better perspective from inside the cockpit to anticipate the race's unfolding conditions. From a team's perspective, it's not obvious at all, the Briton contended. From the cockpit, it was very clear it was going to be a red flag or safety car because the conditions were undrivable. The rain was not easing. I could see the big black cloud above me. We're working as a team. We're trying to make the best decisions in the time. Clearly, the guys who didn't pit, they finished 1, 2, 3, and we finished the highest of the drivers who did. So I would take a small slice of satisfaction from that. As Formula One approaches the end of the season, Mercedes is facing an increasingly precarious situation. The team is dangerously close to exceeding the sport's strict $135 million cost cap, following a string of expensive accidents. This has led team boss Toto Wolff to consider creative strategies to keep the W15 competitive without exceeding their budget. We're at a tricky point with the cost cap, Wolff explained. These crashes have put us on the back foot financially, and the last one in Mexico was especially impactful. To replace the damaged components, we had to use a completely new chassis, which significantly dents our budget. We'll need to get creative with the remaining parts to make sure we're not overspending. We're limited in terms of development parts we can add for the rest of the season. In Brazil, we ran 2 new floors, but after that, there's essentially no budget left for any more upgrades. The answer really is 0. There are simply no more funds for new development parts. Can Mercedes give Lewis Hamilton a proper curtain call with what little they have left? Or should they move on from him as soon as now? Tell us what you think in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.